Hi, folks. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on to my latest long-range forecast update here. It's Sunday, a little after 4 o'clock Eastern Time here around the area, and it is a wet day. Temperatures are starting to cool down outside with the passage of that cold front, but we've got plenty more rain on the way. Of course, we don't really need it. A lot of the rivers are already swelling up right now. Flood advisories out for a good chunk of the area. Did have some flash flood warnings out earlier. Those are no longer for the area here, but certainly flash flood watch out for much of the area. Flood advisories out, so just watch out there, folks. We've got some rivers that are on the rise, and we got plenty more rain on the way. All of this that you see down to the south will eventually roll through us as the next wave moves through. As we zoom in here on our area here, not just a tremendous amount going on here right now, just some light rain sort of moving through the area, and that'll come in multiple waves, as you can pretty much see here. Let me go ahead and put this into motion for you here on future radar to give you an idea, and you can see it's just wave after wave after wave of rain. There's the heavy rain down to our south, starts moving up. Here we are late overnight, early into tomorrow morning, and you can see even some wintry weather starting to mix in here, but that'll stay out of our area. That moves through, and we'll have some decent little rains continue to move through the area. Finally, by tomorrow evening late, that's when we start to see things pull out, and by Tuesday we'll be dry again. Now, rain-wise, even another couple of inches plus possible around the area. This is on top of what we've already received, by the way. Many areas have already received a good inch or two of rain out there, another couple of inches potentially on the way. So certainly a very good soaking out there for us, but we're on the warm side of this system out there. In fact, as we go back here, we can just place temperatures here across the area, and well, what you can see, still fairly mild for this time of the year. Keep in mind it's December, and we're at temperatures in the mid to upper 40s across the area. Our normal high today is 41, so we're still well above normal. And even though we're cooling down a little bit, certainly still well above normal there. But plenty of rain yet to come. In fact, we'll go into the mid 50s for our high tomorrow again, but much cooler pattern will evolve after that. Now, if you want the snow from the system, you got to go out west, because that's where the snow is falling. A good swath of rain here from Texas all the way up here into Indiana, but on the northern side of that system, in fact, blizzard warnings in effect down for Texas, where they're going to get potentially around a foot of snow in some places, and then of course a decent little amount of snow as you head on up all the way through the Great Lakes as this system starts to evolve up there. And but no snow for us though. Again, we'll stay on the warm side. Now the pattern is starting to change, at least sort of temporarily. Will it be a all-out complete pattern change? That still remains to be seen, but it is changing a little bit from what it was. Let me show you that in the upper air maps. What we have had is what we call a negative P&A, and that's a trough out to the west, ridge out to the eastern side of the United States. That's kept us in the warmth. That's why we've seen 60s and 70s. That's why we saw the severe weather and things. Let me show you what's going on. And that's pretty well what you see here. You've got high pressure out here. Excuse me. More of a trough down into the western United States, and a ridge in the eastern. But let me put this into motion. Here's the low pressure. This is looking at the upper levels of the atmosphere. There's that low pressure rolling through that storm system that's causing us all the rain, all the snow down in Texas. That moves through. We've still got kind of a negative P&A for a little while, but watch this as we go later on. What you see start to develop here is more of a positive configuration to the P&A, and what you have is a ridge of pressure out here in towards the west, and you've got a trough of pressure, a dip in the jet stream here over us. That's more of a positive P&A. That brings a cooler look to it with it. In fact, that's what we're going to see when we look at the numbers here. Is what we'll see is we got a couple of warm days ahead. Ignore that 66 tomorrow. I think the GFS is off its rocker. Probably only going to get into the mid 50s for a high tomorrow with the rain that I'm expecting to roll through here. But after that, what you notice is definitely once that trough starts to dip over us this weekend, when we stay confined into the 30s, that's going to feel brutally cold, frankly, compared to where we have been. We've been in the 60s and 70s. We've been spoiled, but this is really common December weather that we'll be having this coming weekend, and of course by then it'll be January, but still very much more normal type of weather. Normal high temperature by today is around 41 degrees. So as we dip in here, we'll go down to at least a little bit more below normal pattern again. But notice it doesn't really last. We got temperatures nearing 50 as you head on out into the middle of January again. So El Nino still having a very firm hold on us, still keeping the cold air locked up to our north. That said, there are some changes into the pattern, at least for the next couple of weeks, that will favor that cooler pattern. Let me show you the indices. Again, one of the things that you look for if you want a colder, snowier pattern, you want a positive P&A. That's exactly what we see, positive P&A. That's what I showed you in the up air charts. That's a dip in the jet stream over us, ridge out to the west. That's what ends up developing. That can funnel that cooler air in here. You also want the Arctic oscillation to be negative. That's cold air on the move from Canada down. It firmly goes into the negative. You want the North Atlantic oscillation to be in the negative. That indicates a sort of a blocking pattern, so any systems that come through would slow down and potentially could give us that snow. That's what we see here. And the EPO you certainly want to be negative, and it stays strongly negative for the next few days here as well, through at least the 12th of January. So you certainly got the indices starting to work in our favor to get into more of a cool pattern. But here's the thing, even though we're certainly going to see an Arctic oscillation go this strongly negative, that's cold air available from Canada to be moved down in because of that positive P&A. But really, there's just not that bitterly cold air up there right now, and so you're not going to end up with bitterly cold air. You're going to end up going back into the 30s and 40s. Well, here's the reason why. Let's just take a look at our old friend, the polar vortex. The polar vortex, whenever we had those major Arctic air invasions coming down a few years ago, you'll remember the polar vortex was kind of split off into pieces, and one of those pieces made it down here all the way to the Hudson Bay, and it allowed some of that colder air to dip in. But notice right here, this is just the analysis of it from today's run, and what you can see is it's just strong, and it's in a tight circle, and it's just holding firm up there. So it's an extremely strong polar vortex right now, and what it's doing is because it's all in one solid piece and holding firm up there, what is happening is Canada is not experiencing majorly cold temperatures as a result of this. They're a little bit warmer than normal, and because of this being so strong, you're not going to get that major Arctic air invasion until that starts to weaken a little bit. Well, will it weaken? Let's go out in the model over time. Let's go to 240 hours out. Maybe it starts to wobble just a little bit, but it's still a closed low, and it's still pretty firmly in control up there. No major signs of what some people would call a sudden stratospheric warming event, which could split the polar vortex into two. A piece of that could break off and come down. That's what we look for over the wintertime when we get those major cold air invasions. No sign of that right now. So what that's going to be, even though we have some indices working in our favor to be that negative AO, that positive P&A, the indices may work in our favor because the polar vortex is locked firmly up into place up to our north, and it's just not it's not going to weaken. It's a piece of that's not going to break down. What you'll end up with is still fairly mild temperatures. Now, certainly cooler than what we've had. Say goodbye to the 60s and 70s that we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks. Some of those very warm days that we've had. And we're going to go down to the 30s and 40s and sometimes even nearing 50 again. So it's a cooler pattern than this very much above normal pattern that we're seeing. But nonetheless, it's still an above normal pattern most of the time. Again, right around 41 being your average high, and you can see as we get into the extended period, we go back up to that well above normal pattern again. So right now, I wouldn't expect January to be anything different than what we've got right now. We got a little cold snap coming in next weekend, but it's more of a short-lived cold snap, and we go right back up into the mid-40s, nearing 50 again. So it's still going to be overall, I think, a fairly warm, at least first half of January. Maybe not as warm as December has been, but certainly warm for this time of the year. Now, with that said, any chances of snow in the forecast? Well, let's look at the GFS model, give you an idea what it's saying. There is that rain system down in Texas. It starts to move our way. Pretty powerful low pressure going to bring a good swath of snow, chunk all the way from Texas, shooting straight up into the Great Lakes region here. But again, just rain for us as it rolls through. After that, notice we've got some systems to our north and to our south, but nothing that really rolls through, and it's just days and days of pretty well quiet weather here. We may have one day towards the beginning of January where we get a nice little dip. System moves to our north, indicating that maybe some snow showers or some flurries might get close to the area, but nothing significant. High pressure, large and in charge, good chunk of the time. We don't get our next system really starting to move in until January the 7th after this. The GFS indicating maybe some rain and snow line right pretty close to us. But again, this far out, it's sort of a crapshoot. You can't really predict it with any degree of accuracy. So something will roll through potentially there. But again, even that is short-lived, and you don't see anything really major in the works for us for a good long while. So while we've had this last half of December being a very active time where we've had system after system roll through, we even had some severe weather early in the week, we're entering now into a very quiet pattern. And so what you're going to see is a cool down coming on, but it's going to be quiet. So if you're looking for snow, I still don't really have anything for you inside. I don't really have any systems of interest there to look for. Again, there's that one system maybe around January the 7th, but that's an early indication. That's 264 hours out on the GFS. Certainly nothing to get excited about at this level. And, I wouldn't worry too much about it at this point. Really no major systems that we can point to and say this looks interesting. We'll start to watch that this far out. The variances on those come and go all the time. But a colder pattern certainly shaping up for us. Drier pattern, though, shaping up for us as well. Again, temperatures well above normal for the most part, with the exception of next weekend. All right, folks, you can go to southernindianaweather.com, click on 10-day forecast. That's where you can always get the updated 10-day. Again, we've got a lot of rain moving our way for us. In fact, if we just take a look at that again, another couple of 3 inches potentially on top of what we've already got. So expect some heavy rains tomorrow. It's going to be breezy as well. Showers and thunderstorms likely. After that, though, we go back down into the 40s for a couple of days. By the time we hit the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day holidays, though, that's whenever we go back down into the 30s. And, we're rain free, but that's going to be certainly a shock to our system where we've been. But we will go back up to the 40s after that. And then again, in the long range, it looks like we're going to go back up to even near 50 as we start to go later in January. So there's some positive signs inside if you like that warmer weather. A brief cool down coming on, but we'll warm back up from the way things look. All right, folks, that is it for this latest long-range update. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite for southernindianaweather.com. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you next time.